Jenni McCarty of Five Oaks Family Farm. Welcome to the Witness Business Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we typically like to start the show with is this question. What would you say is the worst job you've ever had?
Oh, I processed loans for a while. That was awful. Least favorite job, processing loans.
I don't even know if you need to elaborate on it, but you can if you want.
It- okay, so here's a little personal advice. If you are a proofreader personality, then you could probably be a great loan processor. But if you are not good at proofreading and you're always handing it off to somebody else who is good at proofreading, you should probably not go for that position. So,
Steve, I think that rules you out, buddy.
Hey, what are you trying to say?
You just sent me something earlier with a typo, and you're like, "Should we do this?" No, no was the answer.
To be fair, ChatGPT created it, but
Yeah, and he didn't catch it.
I didn't
But
catch it. But
we digress. That aside, we're super excited to have you on today and to talk about, really, we felt like you have a very unique story in the sense that you are both. I mean, you're essentially using your home to run your business, and we want to talk about what it's like to run the farm and then the different businesses that you've created under the umbrella of the farm. So, before we get into that, we kind of like to do the origin story, if you will, of like, how did you go from where you were at to where you are currently? And for you, that required a cross country move of several thousand miles. So we'll kind of let you take it from here.
it did. And this, I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible because I'm known for rabbit trails. We're going to actually start further back. Um, I was homeschooled, but dropped out my junior year, took my GED, and started taking college classes the next semester, like the ones that I tested in for and stuff, and just started taking what I could at the community college. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and just took as many community college classes as I could. And then once I ran out of those, moved over to the state school. I originally was for teaching and then switched to business because I just had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and a business sounded super flexible. So I do have a business degree.
I started. I
Um,
started as a business major as well. Changed it like
yeah,
four times my freshman year, so I'm right there with you.
yeah. So indecision is not, it does not rule you out. Um, Met my husband. Oh, well, okay. So at the time that I made the original decision to stop high school and start college, we were in Arizona. And then when I was 18, my family moved to Kodiak, Alaska. It's a island in Alaska. And we, I was persuaded to move there. Very happy we did because that's where I met my husband. We went on and got married about 2 years before I graduated college. And then we moved back to Kodiak and bought a house, started a family. I can't even tell you how many random jobs I had. I mean, it there was no connection anywhere from nannying to working at Old Navy to an electrical supply store to processing loans, working in a hospital. Once I had my degree, I ended up being a, a business manager in the hospital, but then just life happened and I ended up managing a home building office and real estate management and like no connection whatsoever. It was just whatever would help pay the bills. And had my first child. We have 5 kids and everything changed. Priorities changed. We realized that our priority was that we wanted to have a bigger family. So it was a very, very difficult decision because both his family and my family were the oldest kids. And, our siblings and everybody lived in Kodiak, Alaska. And we made the hard decision to move across the country to somewhere where we could survive on one income. So we moved to North Alabama cost of living was low and it was tight, but we made it. After being a stay-at-home mom for a while, I got bored. Still wanted to stay home with my kids, but I ended up building a photography business. And my husband went back to school to finish his degree. We stayed there for a while and saved and saved. And eventually, we had chickens in the backyard and we were growing food. It was so novel compared to living in Alaska where it was hard to grow things because, when the sun is up, you have really long days and you can grow food, but like the number of months that you can grow things outside is so small. So it was so novel. If you put anything in the ground here, it would grow. In fact, the hardest part is the weeds and the grass because everything just grows here. And so we started to dream of more land to grow more things. And so eventually that savings built up and we were able to buy our property that we currently are on now. 16 acres. It's a mile south of the Tennessee border and there wasn't anything on it. So we sold our house, moved into an apartment, and then went through the process of building our house. Meantime, right before we sold our house, I had our fifth child, and while I was pregnant with her, found out that I had an autoimmune disease, and the gluten and sugar were the two major drivers to the migraines that I had been constantly struggling with. And so eliminated those two things out of my diet completely. We ended up getting bees because we were going through an insane amount of honey because all the sugar in our house got replaced with honey. And so chickens and bees are the gateway drug for us for getting into farming. But it was not a dream from the beginning to own land and try to run a self-sufficient farm where we were like growing our own food. And eventually we set the goal of growing 80% of our own food and we did hit that mark. And but then it's like, well, there's what next? Michael's having to go off to work every day. And really, like, the dream of living on a farm is to live together on the farm and to work the farm. But when you don't have a whole lot of extra time because you're going to work every day, like, that's not exactly what you had in mind
It's just
originally.
a big yard, and
Yeah.
basically, if you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so what was he doing? What was he doing by day during that time?
He is a well, was because he's now,
Yeah,
but he
was
did
is the
cyber,
operative word. That's part of why we're having you
right?
on.
Right. Cybersecurity.
Okay,
So
and then he would come
um,
at home and farm by night.
he would, he would.
Man,
And there was a 45-minute trek in and out of town. So he was spending about an hour and a half in the car. So we ended up, well, okay, so COVID hit.
mm,
And he was able to do telework from home and recapture that hour and a half that he was spending in the car every day. And it wasn't, oh, we felt so guilty because there were so many people that struggled through COVID, but really it was such a sweet time for us because all of a sudden he was home and he's also an introvert. So not having to do all of the office chit chat and everything all day, like he had energy for us. When whereas normally he would have energy when he left in the morning and come home empty and then he'd have all the farm chores and stuff, for the stuff that he did and he was always just drained. And
mm,
so COVID just shifted that whole dynamic for us and our family, where he had energy to pour into our family instead of, chit chat at work. And we recaptured that hour and a half every day where he wasn't spending it in the car. And we just really started talking out plans and what we were going to do with the property and we had more time to actually do the projects and all of that. So that was amazing. We never wanted to go back. So we set this goal to figure out how he could retire early. Like, how can we build a business? What can we do? Got a little distracted along the way because I got into some real estate. We did investing, flipping houses and stuff. But when the market kind of crashed or not crashed, when it kind of froze and the interest rates went up and everything, we had some losses and I kind of had to pull back and reassess because we were hoping that that was going to be kind of our ticket if we could get the snowball rolling and like start making income that way. Michael's really handy. And so we just had visions of like, as soon as he's not having to work full time, then we could do more of the renovations and all of that. And that kind of just didn't end up working out. And so it was our 20th anniversary year of being married, and we went away for a trip um, that I had already scheduled. And just being able to reassess on that trip and having some mental space, I went, I came back and went, okay, so real estate has wound down. We just sold our last investment house. We could use some money because, you know, we took some hits and losses there. And I don't know, we've been doing this whole like I had started an Instagram account when we first bought the land to document our story of what we were building and just things we were figuring out and stuff. And with the autoimmune disease, along the way, we had figured out that I could eat sourdough with no problems, whereas I can't eat any other bread. So that was super novel, you know, and sourdough was huge during COVID. And so we were just sharing, I was sharing about the sourdough stuff and what we were making in the kitchen and alternative recipes that had honey instead of sugar. And people really started to grab onto sourdough. But, you know, any preservative free bread doesn't have preservatives, so it molds faster. And
Mm.
so we were troubleshooting ourselves how we could like sustain or make this bread last a little bit longer and came across, you know, just the different bread bags and things like that. But they didn't really work very well. And then we came across this idea of a beeswax coated bread bag. And Michael showed it to me. He was the one that saw the idea first. And I said, "Oh, well, I could sew a bag and like let's look up and figure out how to get the beeswax on it." That's the biggest. We trialed and errored the beeswax on that more times than I can tell you. Like it's not as easy as it seems. um, but we
Well, I
eventually
can't even hardly conceptualize it. So what does that entail? Because
set.
I'm imagining Steve tried to put together a beeswax bag. It's bringing me some
Yeah.
joy. But tell us how to actually do it.
So you need heat and pressure. So, and then also, let me tell you, like, if even though beeswax is food safe and you can eat it with no problem, you know, people really don't like it if it flakes off and is on their loaf of bread. That's a customer service nightmare. So, some people really, really don't like it. And then also, there's certain beeswax, certain grades of beeswax have strong smells to them, and then that smell can come off on your food. And so the process, we originally, our first method that we did for a long time was to roll out towels on the table and then get extra wide parchment paper and lay everything down and kind of sandwich it in between the parchment paper and then take a clothing iron and melt the pellets into the fabric and try to do it as evenly as possible, which that was also a learning curve. Um, and then you have to open it up really fast because you don't want it cooling off with it closed because then it sticks closed because you know the wax is cooled. And then getting the right amount of wax and all of that stuff. So it was this process. And so I had made a few to keep our bread in. And in the process of talking about sourdough, they were cute prints because it was fabric that I had used out of my personal stash or whatnot. And people were asking about them. So, okay, I get back from this trip and I was like, well, people keep asking about these spread bags. I don't, I have time because like real estate has wound down. My kids are getting older. Like I'm not needed on the same level as a mom as when I had like little babies and stuff. I have time. We need money. What if I made 10? I'll put them on the website and see if they sell. And if they don't, I'll give them as gifts for Christmas. And we'll see what happens. So I put them on the website and posted about them on in my stories on Instagram. And they sold out before the end of the day. And so I went, wow, okay, that's awesome.
That's affirmation, I think.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, and I want to say we had 2,500 followers at that point. I mean, really, I had been consistent about sharing our story, but I didn't have an offer. I didn't have anything. It was just people that like knew us. And I had been sharing free recipes and stuff periodically. Um, and so knew us digitally, not in real life. And so then I went to the fabric store and I got stuff for 20 bread bags. And I remember checking out thinking, oh my goodness, are these even going to sell? Because, yeah, sure, there's 10 people out there that want bread bags. Uh, are there 20 more? And so I went ahead and made them and I posted them, the fabrics. I took pictures of the fabrics before I even like had the bags made and posted them because I was thinking it was going to take longer to sell. 6 hours. All 20 of those sold in 6 hours. So then I went back and got stuff for 40 and then 80 and then, 200. And every time I went back, I was like holding my breath because I'm going, there is no way these are going to sell. This is so many bread bags. Oh my goodness. And they
You're
just
sitting there
kept
thinking
selling.
like every time I double it, I'm getting closer and closer to the maximum number of people that want a bread
Yeah.
bag.
Which is such a,
Also, the people at the fabric store are like, what is happening?
oh, I get so many questions. But like what a perfect example of scarcity mindset, right? Like I was just very in scarcity mindset. And so I went and continued to make them. All right, so we're approaching, I'm thinking, okay, the 20th of December, everything's gonna kill. Done. Like, I can't get it in the mail in time for Christmas. Like all of these are just Christmas gifts and whatever. Nope. Nope. It keeps going. So month of December, I sold $10,000 worth of bread bags. Then in the month of January, because I'm going, okay, this December is over. Like month of January, we sold $20,000 worth of bread bags. And in the month of February, we sold $25,000 worth of bread bags. And and then we approached the summer and everything, and things chilled out because it's not baking season, and
Mm.
people are just focused on other things. And then we start
Today
approach.
today I learned that there is a baking season.
There
So
is a baking season, and
go
we are
go
in
on.
it. um, so then the summer went along, but we were making enough to cover our animal feed bill. It was typically around $500 or $600 a month when the bill would come in because we have an account with our local place. Um, and I was like, okay, well, we must have just like peaked and now it's summer. In the back of my mind, business mind was kicking in, going, I bet we get a little more busy through this coming season once people are baking again and stuff. But I'm sure we've peaked, right? So then we hit September and things are heating back up again. Like it's growing. And then all of a sudden I went, okay, so what if we had somebody, because up till this point it was all organic marketing and it's just a question of when Meta grabs something and you go for this wave, and like it goes big and then it calms down, and you're just waiting until Meta grabs something else and decides to show it to people. And I went, okay, so what if we had a marketing team or whatever, if we hired somebody to do ads and do them really well, and then we could have more consistency. Like we wouldn't be making as much per bread bag, but we would have more consistency in our orders and more control over that. So I started asking around, and Thomas Cox is a friend of ours. We had collaborated on some things, and he recommended Nips Media. Huge shout out to David and his team. They are fantastic. Highly recommend. But we decided, okay, so things are heating up through busy season, or what we were considering the busy season. At that point, once September kicked off, it was like, okay, this is a busy season. Summer cooled off because it's not baking season. Okay, I see potential here. So I reached out to them. They started October 1st. So while they're just like gathering assets and all of that stuff, I was still posting organically really regularly. I've gotten kind of lazy about that now, but we went viral. And what could not have been better timing, they had all of their plugins in place for us to go viral. So everybody that bought something on the website, through that wave, they were able to collect that data. And so then we had those emails, and we had, even on the Meta side, because everything was through Instagram, we went viral on Instagram specifically. Through Instagram, we were able to build a customer profile essentially, and give us a really good idea who to market to. And we could not keep up at all, like drowning, fully underwater. I was working 18-hour days. Michael was working his desk job upstairs and then coming down on breaks, and then nights and weekends and everything. My son was helping wax. My husband, I was sewing as fast as I could, and I could sew about the same speed as my husband and son. He's 17 now, but could wax them, because waxing took about twice the time. So, and then all day I was pulling the orders and trying to package the orders and get the orders out. All of this on our dining room table, kitchen island, and our guest room. And it was like, it was nuts, completely nuts. 7 days a week, 18-hour days, not a whole lot of sleep. I'm like up until midnight, 1 o'clock, trying to reply to and manage all of the social media stuff. And so my husband says, this is not sustainable. We need help. You need to talk to a manufacturer or something. And I said, no. I was like, the people that are buying from us are buying a handmade product. If we go manufacturing, that's not what they want. I don't think we're going to be able to actually like continue this and grow it like this if we go manufacturing. He goes, well, you got to figure something out, because this is great, but we can't keep doing this. And I mean, I knew he was right, but so I started thinking, and so we homeschool our kids, and I have this Facebook group where we just share resources, like who is doing taekwondo classes, who offers music lessons, that sort of thing. And I posted in that group. There's about 6,000 families in there. And I said, okay, this is a for real work from home opportunity. I'm willing to pay $6 per bread bag. You have to come to me, and you have to come get trained, and you have to provide all your own tools, but I will pay $6 per bread bag if you want to learn how to make them from your house. And at that time, it was, with that method, we could make about 6 bread bags per hour. And so that's like $36 an hour. I mean, we're pretty efficient at that point. We had made thousands of bread bags, but like
But
that's
with
the
some proper
potential.
training, somebody could
Right.
potentially get up to 35 bucks an hour.
Right.
pretty quickly.
And I wanted to structure it specifically for those stay-at-home moms where like it's not an hourly wage. So if your child is sick that day and the only time that you have to work on it is when they're taking a nap, or like, you're working and your kid comes and says, "Mom, I need you," you can stop and go take care of them and then come back to it. So you may not be perfectly efficient at home, but moms have women and moms in general that are at home have this unique like pockets of time throughout the day that you can just kind of like be efficient during those times instead of just having downtime or scrolling our phones or whatever else. And so I did it, and there were about 5 women that replied, and I'm drowning, and I'm telling Michael, I don't even know how I'm going to find the time to train them because, but I knew that that was the only way out of the hole. So we trained them, and about 2 weeks later, they started showing up with bags, like volumes of bags, and I went, "Oh my goodness, this is," and they were just like, "This is amazing because we can work from home and this is good money, and like we have this sewing skill that doesn't pay anything in any other situation, and the waxing is always new for everybody, but still." And so it was like seriously serving a need on their part, but then on our part we were desperate for help. And so I was like, okay, 5 people helped, 10 people could help even more. And we've got this marketing team that's saying we could sell more if you had more stock. So I said, okay. And so we hired on 5 more people. And I'm reaching out into other Facebook mom groups and saying, legitimate work from home, like we're located here. This, you have to come to our farm once a week to pick up supplies and drop off product. But everything else can be done in your home. These are the basic things that you need. We provide the training. And so I started hiring people on in fives. And so we went through that process, and we have continued to grow. And we are up to 50 makers now. We call them makers because, like, some of them, we've added a few other products that are sewing based products to our lineup and stuff. But I am just, it's turned into my favorite part of this business is the makers, and just being able to provide them the opportunity to work from home, and it with this really flexible business model. But then also we would not be able to do what we're doing without them, period. Like there's
Well,
no
and
way we would have been able to scale.
you shared before the show kind of your heart for these women too. Do you kind of want to talk about an aspect of that?
Absolutely. So as we're getting into it, like, I mean, these women are coming to my mudroom door and unloading like what they've finished to my dining room table. And these conversations that I'm having with these women, like some of them, like this money helping some of them get out of really bad situations. And then this money also, like there's some moms that were like on the edge of having to, they homeschooled and were going to have to put their kids in public school, and nothing against public school, but that wasn't what they wanted to do. Put their kids in public school and get a job at Publix or Kroger. And just these really needful situations, and just seeing how this has been able to take the pressure off or enable change in their lives has been absolutely heartwarming. Doesn't even touch it. Like it
Yeah.
feels purposeful and meaningful. And
It's my favorite part of entrepreneurship. Like when people come on the show and they're like, we have a team of 60 people for you, 50 people. Like, so not only are you like fulfilling your own entrepreneurial dreams, you're making money, making a living, providing an income for yourself, but you're also providing for, 50 people to put food on their table, to make them, independent, not relying on, say, the government for their own to like well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's my favorite part is that you have changed the lives of 50 women in starting your bread bag business.
And all because you originally said, we'd like to grow enough food to replace what we've got. And then,
Yeah.
they didn't. I went to public school, and they did not. They had the dare, the drug education. They did not warn me about the gateway drug of chickens and
Chickens,
honey.
Right.
So
chickens and bees. So let me
it's
just
just
recap because
it's fascinating to hear how it's all unfolded. Go ahead.
yeah,
Steve.
there was a lot in there that I have a lot of questions. But let me just see if we can recap kind of where you've come from. So you started, you're in Alaska. You make this cross country move. My understanding, I think, from your website is you move to like half an acre. You start
Yeah.
building out like just a small farm so you can start living off the land a little bit. Then you move
hmm
to something like 17 acres.
Yeah, we purchased 17 and then subdivided off an acre from my parents. They live across the field from us.
Okay,
So,
so but
yeah.
a large plot of
Yep.
land. You start growing your own stuff. Somewhere along the line, you get diagnosed with this autoimmune disease. You start eating sourdough. You find that plastic is not the greatest way to store sourdough. You build a bread bag. Now you're selling bread bags. Now you have a team of 50 women selling bread bags. Like your story has like pivot after pivot, which I think is a
hmm
testament to entrepreneurship. Like you are just figuring it out and you make a tangential change, like, okay, one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. None of that was like dramatic shifts.
Yeah.
You just like noticed a need for yourself, essentially, and turned that into this booming business. So I'm curious, how many bread bags does that translate to? You've got 50 women on a regular basis making these. So like maybe yearly, how many bread bags are you selling?
Well, and you had told us before the show about
What that
the revenues involved.
yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
comfortable recapping that, that's an eye popping figure too.
Okay, so we do about 100 bolts of fabric a week, and that each bolt makes 20 bags. So we produce around 8,000 bread bags per month. We also have bowl covers now, and they're made really well. The number one feedback that we get on the bowl covers is how well they're made. There's lots of bowl covers online, but the majority of them are just not super well made. So we take a lot of pride in the quality. We have grown. We are on track now for this year. Okay, so our first bread bag went online December of 23. So now we are approaching December of 25. So we're about to hit our 2-year birthday. Keep an eye on our website the first week of December. There will be an extra sweet little deal there for you for our bread bag birthday. But we are on track to hit 3 million in gross sales this year.
That
So
that is so crazy. That
Well,
is
congratulations. That's
yes.
amazing that, you went from bouncing around from Old Navy to whoever would employ you, trying to figure out how to make it work, and now you're running a business that
And
brings in
I'm
yeah.
$3 million a year is like quite the
yeah, and I'm also thinking of Michael. Michael's like, maybe I can retire early. This is kind of nice.
Well, he he has stayed on with this company on a PRN basis, where he just when he is needed, he jumps in 1 to 2 days a week. But he resigned from the full time position earlier this at the beginning of the summer this year. So he's full time farmer now, and so we got it all
He's
backwards because most farm businesses are super busy in the summer, and then winter is their dead time, and and then they also typically start with local customers and then branch out. So our busiest time is like September through April, and we're typically marketing harder to like bridge the summer gap because that's off season for bread baking. And then our customers are all over the world. So the majority is in the US, but we do ship worldwide. And so we're just completely backwards. And never in a million years would I have thought that our farm-based business wouldn't actually use the land.
Well, there actually is an element
So,
in play though where you're also utilizing the land too to an extent because
yeah.
you're selling goods locally too. And so I kind of wanted
Yes.
to talk about maybe the evolution of beyond bread bags because you've got bundles, and we'll obviously we want you to promote this here in a little bit, but you've
Yeah.
got your bags, you've got sourdough kits, you've
Hmm.
got a sourdough course, you've got a skincare line, and then you also sell some of the food that you grow locally and do a beekeeping course.
Yeah.
So you say that you're busy September through April, but I think you're busy year round. It sounds like.
We stay very busy year round, even though business wise we're less busy through the summer. That's we still come back to growing our own food. Growing 80% of your own food is a lot of energy, um, personal energy. And due to health and stuff, we've just found that's where our heart is at for me and my health, but also just my family. I want my kids and my husband to have the same level of nutrition. So that takes a lot of time. But this, as we've like looked bigger and wider, business wise, we really want to bring it back to our local community now too. So we've only had an online shop up till this point, but we were just able to build a barn because we desperately needed some more space for shipping and all the logistics of what is going into the business right now. And in that space, we actually have a teaching kitchen space. So sourdough classes, and then in the spring, beekeeping classes, and the old little building. Because the beginning of this summer, we purchased a portable building to be able to ship out of because I couldn't handle it anymore for all the shipping myself. And it's my kitchen. It's my living room, and I want my kids home to be feel like their own home and not a business place. And so I didn't feel like I could hire anybody to help me with shipping until I had a separate place to keep it all in. So that that little portable building that we had obtained at the beginning of the summer is going to turn into our little retail shop. And moving into this next year in the spring, we have aspirations of turning it into a full-on little farm stand store, and then getting the certifications we need to be able to carry USDA certified meats, and then like farm raised chickens, and working with our local farmers, like the network that I built before we actually had our own property. Like I vetted these people, because I wanted the highest quality for myself. So I know these farmers. They're the ones that I trust for the quality that I'm willing to feed my own family. And so working with them so that we can then collaborate with them kind of in a similar way that we have with the other makers that we have on our team. But they already have the infrastructure, they already have invested all of this, and some of them kind of struggle to, like, they have a day job and they're just doing farming in the evenings and weekends because they can't scale it. So we'd really like to collaborate and do all of that with our local food sources as well. So that's what we're going to be leaning into this coming year. So
Just a kind of a quick aside here. I feel like a big driver of what has led you to where you are today is wanting to take agency over being able to feed your family and feed them well. And I think that that's a very hot topic right now for a lot of families, especially with conversations about food dyes and things like that. And, obviously
mhm.
yours was autoimmune driven, and it's huge that you've figured that out. What I'm what I'm leading to here is the question being, what advice would you have for mothers, families who are looking to kind of take back some of their agency over their food supply, if they have a limited or a small amount of land. What would you say? I mean, I think that this is a good plug potentially for your sourdough kit and to do things
Yeah,
that way, but even beyond that, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
absolutely. Um, I would, I feel like in general, it's really easy to look at what we can't do, what our limitations are, and um, to see our life as it is now. We live on this beautiful farm. We've built a house on the land. We have all the animals, and to just look at that and go, "Oh, I could never do that." We don't have land. We don't have, fill in the blank. We can't do that. I live in an apartment. I don't have a backyard to plant things. Container gardening, worm farming, just making things from scratch, reading labels. I typically, and every once in a while, I'll say, a mom will say, "What's?" I'm trying to get things cleaner for my kids. What do I do? And and I know that it gets a reaction. I'm sorry, but I'll say, don't give anything packaged. Nothing. Like if it's in a package, don't. Like get the bread that you've read the ingredients that you're confident in. Get the get the jam that has as few ingredients in it as possible. Get the peanut butter that doesn't have sugar in it and make your own sandwich. Like stop handing packages to your kids. And sometimes they go, "Oh, yeah, we'll see." And sometimes they get offended. And it's so touchy. Um, because the last thing we as mothers want to feel like is that we're not doing the best we possibly can for our kids. But it is overwhelming,
Yeah,
completely overwhelming.
everybody's fighting that battle every day to do their very best.
Yeah.
And sometimes the truth is an inconvenient one. But
Yeah,
and I would say probably delivery is a big part of it too, or
it is.
their willingness to receive it. But still, practical
Yeah.
advice, and that is what one of the things that we want to be a hallmark of this show. So thanks for unpacking that
Well,
for us.
and I always kind of pedal it back a little bit and say, I know that's overwhelming, especially like for, they're like, well, school lunches and all of this. Um, Start with one thing. That's what I had to do for me personally, shifting my whole diet away from gluten and sugar because, like, gluten or sugar are in everything. Every packaged thing you can find sugar-free stuff at the store. You can find gluten-free stuff at the store. You cannot find gluten-free and sugar-free stuff at the store. Uh, In my experience, it doesn't exist. And so, like, I had to start at the beginning, and I was so overwhelmed, and I was so overwhelmed. I get it, I really do. But what I started doing was I have this one thing. My thing was cookies. Like that was the number one thing that I missed. I don't care about cake and I don't care, whatever. And I actually started talking with my aunt. This is another plug, by the way. I started talking with my aunt and just bemoaning the fact that I just miss cookies so much. I had figured out a honey sweetened ice cream recipe. So like I like ice cream and I like cookies. I couldn't care less about
That's
all
great
the
because
other desserts.
I was about to say, for me it'd be ice cream. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
God you landed on ice cream.
yeah. So I had figured out ice cream, but like just cookies. I just miss a good cookie. There's something about cookies for me. And she went, "Well, let me see what I can do." And she just, every once in a while you run into those people and they just know food. Like they go, "Oh, it's kind of like your grandma where she used to make biscuits or whatever else and didn't really measure and just dumped stuff in and it turned out great." That's how Cheryl is. And she shows up. They live in Oklahoma. We're in Alabama. She had to go pick up a truck somewhere. So she flew there and was driving the truck back and stayed at my house overnight. She brought cookie dough with her. And she was like, "We need to bake these up." I went, "Oh, can't eat cookies." She goes, "No, no, no, you should be able to eat these. They are, they only are sweetened with honey and there's no flour in them." And I said, "Okay." So we baked them up and I went, "Oh my goodness, these are amazing." The only thing different I would do, and we started just talking it out and then made two more batches of cookies with tweaks. And so now we have a whole cookbook, Fine Foods Unrefined. And the whole approach is refined, sugar free, and gluten free. And even for the people that can still eat sugar, can still eat gluten. If you think about the majority of the junk food that you consume in your life, most of it has either sugar or gluten in it. And if you just eliminated those two ingredients out of your life, pretty much the rest of your life would be pretty clean, as far as like what you were consuming. But having a few treats that do require some effort because you have to make them at home really helps bridge the gap of not feeling like you can never have anything good again. And so we, the Jenny's cookies were the starting place for the fine foods and refined. And it, the little tagline is nourishing food that doesn't taste like compromise. So that's kind of, that was another piece. So you don't have to write your own cookbook. Sorry, this is a lot of words to get to my point, but just one thing. Pick one thing that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to find better ingredients for this, or I'm going to figure out how to make this so that it's healthier for us. And figure that one thing out and get it kind of on autopilot where you're just doing it without having to think about it or pull up the recipe or whatever else. Just make that one switch. And then once you feel like that is under control, grab another thing because fewer chemicals, fewer additives, fewer food dyes. It's not an all or nothing thing. It if you can lessen your exposure to it, it makes a difference. So any little bit counts. And if you just stay on that road for long enough, it all really kind of snowballs. And before you know it, you'll look back and go, wow, we've eliminated a lot. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're in a
Well,
much better
now
place than we used to be.
I'm healthy living.
It sounds like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. It's all about step one.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well,
yes.
well, so you've done a lot. You're doing a lot. You have a lot to offer. Plug for us real quick, just where if people listening want to find you, want to either A, learn more from you, Jenny, or B,
Just say,
buy some of your Five Oaks Farms products. Where can they find all
yeah,
things
everybody
Jenny and all things Five Oaks Farms?
make Jenny buy more fabric.
Yes. Help us increase the number of makers that we can employ.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Okay, so on social media, we are Five Oaks Farm. So FIVEOAKS Farm AL for Alabama on Facebook and Instagram. We are on TikTok. I don't remember what our handle is on there. I think it's just Five Oaks Farm all together without the AL. We're on YouTube, Five Oaks Farm AL. And then our website is fiveoaksfarmal.com. And pretty much like we have our base website, but then just click shop if you want to see what we offer. And
And your socials are linked on there
yeah.
too. So
Yep,
we'll,
socials
we'll
are all
link,
linked there as
we'll
well.
link the website in the show notes so that we can make it easy for everybody.
Awesome.
With that, we have recently started a new segment we're calling What in the World? And it's kind of like hot topics, things going on in the world, and kind of getting your take on what's happening out there. Today, I was going to bring up, so because this is very fresh, that I think it was Kraft Heinz that announced they are getting rid of dyes. They've announced that they are no longer artificially coloring any of their products, any of their food products. So we're looking at Kraft Heinz, Kool-Aid, Jell-O. So my question for you is, what do you think? What do you think about this? Like, I know we just kind of touched on this with,
Sugar and gluten.
and like raising families well. What does this mean for parents? What is your take on it as a farmer, et cetera, et cetera?
You're going to get me on a soapbox.
I love it.
No,
It's the podcast.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. Number one, it shouldn't have been in there to begin with. Food dyes.
Yeah.
Food dyes provide no nutritional or nothing, no additional anything other than the negative. They've known for years and years that it can affect children's behavior along with a host of other health issues if taken in large enough amounts. it's in it had gotten to the point where it's in everything. Um, and so, yes, if you have one serving of it a day, then no big deal. But if it's in your jam and it's in the cereal and it's in the, like it's in everything now. It's all of the chips that look orange, it's everywhere. So that cumulative
Yeah, it's like
consumption,
trace amounts are deemed safe, but when it's in everything that we're eating,
right?
like, is it really trace amounts anymore?
Right, right. And there's so much discussion about, our kids' health, and it declining and just ADHD rates and all of the things. And you can point to I personally believe that it's a cumulative, whether it's the toxins, whether it's the artificial food dyes, whether it's environmental factors, whatever. Um, and even just are drifting towards screen use for babysitting and things like that. They're not expending as much energy. And I think it's a little bit of everything. It's all of these not super healthy things that our kids are being exposed to, and it's creating a situation where they struggle to thrive. And so I don't see a downside. I've actually really struggled with certain brands that have come out and said, our our consumers like their food bright, and we will not be changing it. And I've kind of shrugged and said, okay, well, we're going to go find a different brand, um,
Well,
because
it's interesting you say that because I remember watching a documentary about, I think it was Jack in the Box back in the 90s, was told by the FDA they had to raise the temperature of their beef, and they said, well, when we do that, it's chewy. So they opted not to. A kid got E. coli, a couple kids died, they got sued for millions of dollars. So you can do
yeah.
what you think you like consumers like better all you want, but when
Mhm.
it's unsafe, it's unsafe.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you can argue, that this is dumb and stupid. It hits a little closer to home personally because it's really interesting when I say that sugar and gluten were linked to my migraines and triggering migraines. Um, People really, it makes people really uncomfortable, especially people that get migraines, because we're so
Because they're
emotionally
like,
connected to food. Like
yeah, they're like, I don't
it's
want to give
not
up sugar and gluten.
right, right. It's like I'm calling them out and challenging them to give it up
Right.
themselves. And that's not my that's not my intention. Honestly, the first time I had heard that sugar and gluten could potentially cause migraines, it was a friend of ours, Margie McDonald in Kodiak. And I remember hearing it and going, that's awful, while I had migraines and going, but that's not what's causing mine. I mean, like I had migraines, chronic migraines for 15 years before I figured this out. Once you get to a certain point, you're like, I'll do anything, right? But it took me 15 years to go, you know what? I'm going to give it up for 1 month and see if it helps. And in hindsight, that just looks ridiculous. But like the idea of going one full month without any sugar, refined sugar, or gluten is completely overwhelming to a lot of people, me included. Like it took a long time for me to get there. Um, my husband had been experiencing more and more migraines. At first, like it wasn't that many. They started at a certain point. I can't even really put my finger on when it was, but it was after we moved to Alabama. And really, it coincided with we were on a lower, we were on a single income, and I was buying a lot more processed food from the store. In hindsight, I can see all of this. Buying a lot more processed food from the store because I was couponing, and pretty much the only coupons are there for processed food. And so I was trying to lower our grocery budget. And it was about that time that his migraine started. And so then he gets these ocular migraines. And we're going on and on and on. and we've tried all these different things and he was on migraine medicine and stuff. And he's the primary breadwinner. So if he gets a migraine when he's at work, like eventually they were kind of getting in the way of like being able to go to work or stay at work and that sort of thing. So he read something about food dyes. See, I'm circling back to the point here. Took the long road. He read this thing about food dyes and how it can affect some people by giving them migraines. Well, we started reading every single label. We were like, okay, we're going to do a 30-day test and see if no migraines, or at least track. Like, do you end up with a migraine after you eat something that has food dye in it? But to get to the point where we can do that test, you kind of have to go for a little while of making sure that you're not eating any food dyes. We started reading every label. Not to hate on Cool Ranch Doritos because we love Cool Ranch Doritos. Cool Ranch Doritos has food dye. All those little
Yeah.
like season flecks on the chip,
Yeah.
that's
It's
all
not
just food
real.
dye. It's
Yeah.
not real.
It's funny you say that.
Um,
My wife's old coworker was allergic to the nacho cheese Doritos because of the red
yeah,
dye in them
yeah. So I think it's blue and yellow dye in the Cool
in
Ranch
the Cool
Doritos,
Ranch. Yeah.
but then like the flamin' ones are the worst. Like all
Yeah.
of the flamin' line.
Yep.
But yeah, there's food dye in everything. So we started reading all of the, and then after we went a while with no food dye, he went and he ate some Cool Ranch Doritos and ended up getting a migraine within a
Yep.
day or two.
There you go. I got
So
my neighbors swear that we all have like young children, and one of the neighbors has like I guess he's like a 6 year old, and she swears we'll go to a birthday party, he'll have a cupcake, and she'll see like, oh, this has red 5 or whatever the numbers are in it, like
yeah,
he's gonna have a meltdown later, and sure enough, he'll
yeah.
eat it, and then he'll go home and just like throw a tantrum for no reason, and she's like, it's the red dye.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing, and I know like we've all seen the memes, but it's so easy for us to like link emotional, like good memories of like eating popsicles in the summer and, just consuming candy on Halloween and all of these things. The food that they're producing nowadays, the candy, the chips, the everything, it is not the same. We can't just keep giving our kids the stuff that we have all these good memories of. Like the ingredient list has changed, and so of no fault of any consumer other than just start reading some labels and
Yeah.
see what's in the food. We have packaged food in our pantry as well. We try to keep it to a minimum, but we still pull out tortilla chips when we're having tacos and things like that. But there are healthier options out there, and some of them are more expensive. But technically, even the more expensive tortilla chips are still not good for you. So having them in more moderation,
Sounds
just
like
not as often is a good deterrent for overeating, I guess.
sounds like we're not far away from Jenny experimenting making tortilla chips at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a
Oh,
matter of time.
yeah. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So,
Well, Jenny, we really appreciate you making time for us today and, unpacking your journey for us, everything that's taken place, everything that you're aspiring to do. We're excited to follow you on socials and see how it continues to grow and develop. We encourage everybody, if you want a sourdough kit, to reach out. If you need a bread bag for said sourdough that you make, see her as well. So thank you again for your time. We're excited to see your growth, and we wish you nothing but continued success.
thank you so much for having me.